The five senses are key to engaging people with dementia. The areas of the brain that have the sensory receptors are more durable than other cognitive areas. We use the senses and we use sensory stimulation to connect to distant memories. And we also use sensory stimulation to calm agitation in patients. What will we learn in this module? We're going to teach you how to stimulate memories using each of the five senses. We're also going to walk you through the use of the sensory bag and talk about the benefits of music and massage therapy. Touch is an integral sense to the people we care for with dementia. Because they cannot communicate their feelings verbally, they may feel isolated, depressed, anxious, and agitated. So touch becomes very important because it remains the last form of communication that they may have with another person. So what we want to do is to help them feel safe and cared for by using touch as a way to communicate our concern to them and our care. I want to talk a little bit about a patient that we cared for not that long ago who was living in a nursing home. His wife of about 10 years was visiting him daily and becoming increasingly frustrated that she could not connect with him. She tried music, she would try to talk with him, and neither way seemed to really connect with him. And this was particularly frustrating because he had always enjoyed her music. He enjoyed sitting and listening to her for hours. So she questioned whether her visits were really making any difference in his life. And so we went with her on a visit, and he was pretty sleepy. So what we did is we decided to sit and massage his hands a bit, and I took some lotion and warmed it up, but apparently not warm enough, because when I took his hands in mine, he did flash open his beautiful blue eyes and said to me, "That's cold." But it got him started to engage with us. And then when his wife took his hand and massaged his hand, he in turn connected with her and smiled at her. And what we gave both of them was this connection, but also we gave his wife something to do with him on a visit when all other forms of communication had failed. She was able to touch his hand and massage his hand and connect with him in a way that he could respond to. Some strategies to consider in incorporating touch into your care with patients is to use lotion, as I just described, to gently massage hands and feet of the patient that you're working with. It can be very soothing and relaxing to the person you're caring for. You might also consider offering a soft stuffed animal or doll for the person to hold. Something that it's very soft, maybe furry, something that will give them a different texture to respond to. You might also consider finding out a little bit about the person and things that they had enjoyed in their past. Did they enjoy animals? If that was the case, perhaps holding and stroking a pet might be very soothing and stimulating for the person with dementia. Likewise, if they were a gardener, perhaps having their hands in dirt or working together with you to pot a plant might be a very enjoyable experience for a patient. Offer the person opportunities to do different things with their hands and to handle materials that have different textures, again as a way to stimulate them and perhaps to stimulate different memories that they may have from the past. If your patient seems to be enjoying this experience, seems to enjoy and respond to their hands being massaged or touching and feeling other things, consider a massage therapy referral. Consider whether this would be helpful to the person, whether it would be soothing to them.
As a massage therapist, I always introduce myself to clients first. And I typically will sit down, and what I like about using a stool like this is that it puts me at a lower eye level than people typically are used to. And I think that that's really important, especially for folks who are in wheelchairs all the time and who are always, you know, looking up at people. So, hello.
Hello.
I'm Donna.
Hi, Donna.
I'm the massage therapist. And typically, some people won't always know, you know, or be a little afraid. So it depends on how they react to me, as far as I may choose to sit down and pull out my finger puppets, or I may choose to engage in conversation. I may choose to, you know, just start out just gently rubbing their arm and seeing how they react, watching for body language. If I see the patient starting to turn away, I'll just stop and I'll sit here. And again, I may either get the finger puppets out or get a picture book out, which is really good, or the book of photos, which is really helpful. And typically, a lot of patients will start to look like, oh, what are you looking at over there? And so I'll ask them, would you like a finger puppet? This is one of my favorite toys. And so sometimes I'll be looking at this, and then the patient will want to take a look at it, and I'll give that to them, and I'll start to do this very gently on their arm. And then I'll ask, would you like hand touch, or would you like lotion on your hands? Something of that nature. And I do use lotion all the time. I don't use oil. Oil tends to be really heavy, because a lot of the people that we see have very fragile skin, and oil would just be too heavy. So I'll use a lotion, which is lighter, but sometimes I'll use aromatherapy, which is a really nice way of introducing another sense into the picture. So what I'd like to do with you is I would like to do a hand massage. A lot of times I warm up the lotion a little bit. I'll just rub it in my hands. Then I'll just gently take the hand and start out really slow. I think talking slow is really important. Talking loud enough, but not too loud. Just enough so that you're able to be heard. With the fingers, sometimes I'll take them and just do a gentle range of motion. Very gentle. Again, being aware of things like arthritis and other conditions that may cause pain. And again, being very aware of, you know, limitations. You know, if sometimes people can't turn the hand over like that. And again, you really want to be present with the person. You can't be thinking about, you know, what's going on for the rest of the day. You have to be present so that you can really feel like if there is any kind of, you know, difficulty moving the arm, or if the patient is pulling away from you, you need to be cognizant of that. You can do some gentle range of motion. And it's very nice if there isn't an arm on the chair to actually hold the arm like this. Typically there are arms on wheelchairs, so that helps, but you may also want to use a pillow. Just put a pillow underneath for comfort. At this point, sometimes people will, be looking at me and I'll start singing a song. This just happened yesterday. I was working with this woman who was Irish, and I started singing the Celtic Blessing. And sometimes people smile, sometimes they don't, but another thing that's really interesting to think about is that there are memory cells in all of our muscles, and having positive touch like this really enhances, a person's memory. Sometimes people start to cry, or they have some kind of emotional response, and that's fine. That's fine. And acknowledging it. Something else I'd like to show you is it's a technique that's really helpful for people who are agitated. Oftentimes we go into facilities or we go into homes and people are just, it seems too agitated to touch. So there's a technique that I was taught in my compassionate touch training. And, first, usually what I do is I tell the person that I'm going to be standing in back of you. And again, sometimes depending on where, if they can understand, that's, okay, so. Gently placing your hands, like float your hands down and place them on top of their shoulders. And you can choose to put a pillow between, or a towel, folded towel between yourself and the person, because if the person leans their head back. So, and you gently shift your weight. Here, let me step out here so you can see. Gently shift your weight from side to side, just very gently. And the beauty of this, and my coworkers love this, the beauty of this technique is that it reminds people of being rocked, being in a boat, just gently rocking. Sometimes people fall asleep. Does it feel okay? Mm-hmm. There are other techniques, depending on how much time there is. A technique placing your hand in the back and the other hand in the front. And I often sit on the side like this so that I try and maintain as much eye contact as I can, because if something starts to go on and you see that their face is, you can see any change. And this is basically holding their heart in a very, very compassionate way. I think working with the person's energy is just as important as working with their skin. One of the ways that I like to work with families with massage therapy is demonstration. And oftentimes I will literally demonstrate different techniques to people. And it's so important to do that because oftentimes families are totally lost. They don't know what to do with their loved one. And they want to do something, but they don't want to hurt them. So I show them some techniques that they can use. And I tell them that it's also okay if they lay in bed next to them. So I think touch is very, very important. So I will demonstrate a hand massage, again, just the very gentle work with the lotion and putting some scent in, and they don't have to have a special massage lotion. They can get any lotion from the store, from Target, and add some essential oil. I like to use essential oils that don't have alcohol in them because it's very drying. And often, like I said before, the skin is very fragile. So, so I will demonstrate techniques. And then first what I'll do, though, is sometimes I'll demonstrate on them because they don't always know how much pressure to use. And I don't use a whole lot of pressure, so I'll show them. I'll do a little neck massage, how they can actually interact with their loved one and how much pressure to use, and they can feel how good it is. I mean, because you think, gosh, you're not using any pressure, but I think it makes a huge difference doing this. So those are basically, the ways that I use, to teach families how they can work with their loved one, and I give them suggestions, like as far as getting one of those pillows filled with beans or seeds that you can put in the microwave. Oftentimes that's really nice, especially if the person likes to be warm, and that's very comforting. And they have different shapes of those pillows, like heart-shaped pillows, and or bolstering, putting pillows under different parts of the body. For example, like maybe a pillow in back, just to help support their back, or if they're lying down, to support their legs. So, and certainly if someone is laying on their back, it is always good to, put the pillow under their knees to help support the curves, the natural curves in the back. So I think in summary, some of the golden nuggets that are the takeaway moments about massage and our loved ones would be presence, being present with your loved one. Not thinking about, the laundry list of things that you have to do, but being with this person right here and knowing that your touch is really making a difference in their lives. Because oftentimes people who are confused with dementia they're just so needy for gentleness, for compassion, and for someone to be friendly to them, for someone to repeat their name. That makes such a huge difference. It really does. I've seen it so many times when I'm with someone and I say their name, like, Connie, it's so nice to see you. Connie, can I give you a hand massage? Connie, it does, because they look at you like, oh my gosh, this person gets me. So, and the flexibility, and the ability to be flexible with the person, because we know that with folks with dementia, they could be going to their senior prom, and you know what? We need to go with them. We need to get on the bus and go to the Aragon Ballroom with them.
Some reasons why massage therapy might be a really helpful experience for a patient is, again, the feeling of intimacy and emotional connectedness that massage therapy, that touch, can bring to the patient. We know from research that massage therapy can provide a great deal of comfort and relaxation. It can help alleviate pain, anxiety, help remediate to some extent fatigue and sleep loss, and help relieve stress and depression. A patient that I recently visited with one of our massage therapists was a woman who was very advanced in her dementia. She was not verbal. She was bedbound, but responded well to the touch of the massage therapist. Going on a joint visit with her, what was so marvelous about that was that while the therapist was working with our patient, I was able to sit with the daughter and talk with her about what her mother meant to her, what her worries were, and to provide education about the dementia trajectory, what care needs were going to come still. And at the end of that session, the massage therapist turned from the patient and was able to then give the daughter a shoulder massage, which was very soothing and connecting for the daughter, who did not have a lot of people in her life other than our hospice team. We're now going to talk about the importance of considering sight as a sensory stimulation for our patients. Vision becomes very challenged later in life, as many of you that wear glasses know. So the importance of making sure that our patients who wear glasses have correct lenses, and that we also, as part of that, consider the importance of color and lighting to our patients to ensure that they can see as well as they can and to minimize strange shadows and make images just crisper for them. We know that images often trigger pleasant feelings and memory of patients. So some things to consider on a visit include looking through photo albums or picture books with our patients. Now, they may not always recognize the people in the photos, but what you can do as the person sitting with them is to ask them about the picture. You can comment, you can say, these two people in this picture look like they're having a really good time. What do you think they're doing here? What do you think they're laughing about? It's a way for you to communicate and connect with your patient, even if they can no longer remember who the two people are in the photo. Looking through picture books can equally be beneficial. Perhaps they've not been to that place. Perhaps they may not know the location of the picture that you're showing them. But you can start them with conversations about perhaps the trees in it or the people, or asking, "Did you ever travel anywhere?" They're again a way to begin a conversation when you're not quite sure how to have one, or to provide stimulation to someone who can no longer talk to you. You might want to consider bringing flowers and plants into the patient's room if those are things that they enjoyed in the past. Again, it's a contrast and something that changes up the room and makes it feel more cozy and home-like. If you have any ability to influence the artwork that's on the wall, you might want to talk to either the homeowner, the family, or the nursing facility about having non-abstract art or photographs on the wall. Again, our patients, because of their cognitive abilities, are not going to be able to make as much sense out of abstract art, but can benefit from realistic photographs and pictures. You also want to make sure that to provide appropriate lighting in the home or the living area to minimize shadows or dark areas so that they don't frighten or confuse the person that you're caring for. One of the stories that comes to mind in thinking about lighting and shadow is a patient I worked with in a community setting a few years ago. This was a person who, during the day, was quite functional, did well in her home, but as evening progressed, became increasingly confused. She was experiencing sundowning or late afternoon confusion. And as the days got darker, she became more agitated and confused as the evening progressed. The home that she'd been very comfortable in was a 2-story home. And for years, she'd lived on the 2nd floor, but in more recent years had lived on the lower level, and her niece had lived on the upper level. As the evening progressed and she became more confused, she would become more agitated and try to break into her niece's apartment for the security of that setting. One of the things that helped her was, in addition to her niece's reassuring presence, was making sure she had adequate lighting in her home to remind her of where she was, that this was a safe setting for her. We're now going to talk about a topic that resonates with all of us, which is to talk about taste as a stimulant for past memories. Food has a strong connection with our past and our patient's past. It's evocative of memories and happy times. Foods that are associated with holidays or special feasts, birthdays, are particularly stimulating to memories in our patients. So thinking about food items that would be particularly meaningful to our patients, and that includes culturally significant foods, are things that are important to introduce into our patients' lives. Some strategies to think about are to offer favorite dishes, including foods from holidays and celebrations, to provide culturally specific foods. And to remember that at end of life, we're going to be accommodating changes in swallowing, and we're going to be offering softer foods and comfort foods, foods that are important to the patient. We're not going to worry as much about therapeutic diets, but what will encourage a patient to eat and bring them pleasure and enjoyment. One of the things to note in our patients with advanced dementia is that they may exhibit a need to suck on something. And you may find them sucking on their fingers, sucking on a blanket. You might consider offering them something that they can suck on that's a food item, such as a lollipop or a popsicle or ice cream. A patient to whom we did a dementia consult about a month or so ago was living in a nursing home and had, when she had been put more or less on bed rest, she developed some bed sores, and so the facility staff wanted her to be able to rest more. One of the things we noticed that with that isolation in her room, she was sucking on things more. She was trying to suck on her hands, her blanket, anything she could get her hands on. And so part of the consultation was to look at what else would meet that need. And so both introducing other people into her life, because we were concerned that she might be a bit isolated, we also considered offering her lollipops and popsicles to give her something that was pleasurable to suck on besides her fingers and the blanket. Another very important sense is hearing. Conversation remains extremely important to people with dementia, even if they can't actively participate in that conversation. But when they can, when they are telling you stories about times and pleasurable places in the past, I want to encourage you to be whoever they want you to be, or whoever they think you are, and join them wherever they are living in time. So the person may think that they're in another location. They may be telling you stories about their children being young and about time they spent on the farm. It does not benefit them to correct them and remind them that those were times 40 years ago. Join the person in the conversation. Enjoy going on the journey with them. And I would encourage you to share your own stories about things you're doing, activities you've been involved with. All of this is a way to connect with your patient in ways that don't necessarily involve taking their blood pressure or asking them a fact.
Music therapy is such an effective modality to use with people with dementia. It's wonderful because it incorporates and is able to tap into all these different places in the brain, all over there. And you can use music to reach the visual field, the audio field, and the tactile field. So when I do music therapy with people with dementia, I really like to focus on creating a really safe place for them so that they can express themselves. feeling comfortable with me and everything that's around them, maybe changing the environment a little bit, bringing them to a different location. So as a music therapist, we strive to use patient-preferred music because that seems to be the most effective when you're dealing with some of their symptoms like pain, anxiety, restlessness. So using patient-preferred music is one of the best things that you can do to help reach them because it's familiar. And helping them engage through different modalities, like using the drum to help them express nonverbally if they don't have that language, or using the music to prompt them verbally if they can still access that. So many times when we're talking to a family, if the patient has family that we're able to ask, we ask them what their favorite music was and what the patient's preferred music was. But if they don't have family, it's really good to think about the patient's age, noting when they're born, and using the music that's right from when they're born up to when they're 20. Any music in that period from birth to 20 seems to be music that they're able to still recall and engage with. So many times people with dementia will notice that they have pain, restlessness, anxiety, and one of the biggest ways that music can help with those is using music as a distraction, or sometimes even as a redirection. So someone who's restless, I may come in there as the music therapist and see that they're having a lot of anxiety, moving around, probably. So what I would do is match the music to their state, have the music be playing fast because they may be moving really fast or their breathing may be quickened. And then what I would do after I'm engaging the music and entraining it with their breath, I would bring the music down and hopefully their breath would follow and their movements would also follow so that they would come more into a relaxed state. And with pain, music can be really, really helpful and beneficial because it's a positive focus that they can focus on and a positive stimulus that they can focus on so that they don't perceive the pain exactly as how they would if the music wasn't there for them to focus on. So many times, if their pain is at a 4 when I come in, they'll say their pain's at a 1 by the time I leave. Or non-verbally, I'll be able to note that their pain is lowered through different things, like watching their body language, seeing their facial grimace maybe go away, jaw tension releases, furrowed brow releases, shoulders go down. Teaching families and staff is always a wonderful part of what I do. I remember one client I worked with, and his daughter didn't know how to engage with him as he progressed through his illness. And so one thing I did was invited her to a session, and it was just the 3 of us, the daughter, me, and the patient. And what we did was we danced. And so I had the patient and the daughter get up and do a little bit of dancing and swaying back and forth because the rhythm would prompt him to engage, make eye contact, which she had lost, and she hadn't seen those in so long. And he hadn't verbalized with her in a while, and if he did, it didn't really make sense. And so one of the beautiful things about the music's rhythm is it, again, prompts the brain. And he was able to make eye contact, talk with her, smile, which was something big, too, that he didn't do that often. And then after that, we would play a big drum together, and that would be really nice work for nonverbal communication or verbal communication. And then we would sing songs that were familiar to him and that he was comfortable with. And the daughter then, after that, felt more comfortable going in to visit her dad because she knew a couple things that would help reach him. This is a song that I use often in my work. It's a beautiful song that talks about love and cherishing that love. So I might use it with someone who is actively dying and their families around them, specifically their spouse, if they're present.
Love me tender, love me sweet, never let me go. You have made my life complete. fulfill for my darling. I love you, and I always will.
Another instrument I like to use in my work is this harp right here. The reason I like to use it is because it has a lot of soothing sounds that vibrate from it, and our patients can find it really relaxing sometimes.
I have one resident that barely opened her eyes. She didn't respond. As much as I tried, I knew her for 2 years. No matter what I tried, massage wouldn't work, nothing worked. But when we got introduced to the iPods and the family told me the things that she liked, it was amazing once we put the iPod on her. She started shaking her feet. She started moving her head. Her son was just amazed. Okay, can we stop? Because now I'm getting all I'm seeing her all over again.
Hi, Papa. Hi, Papa.
Huh?
How you doing?
I'm all right. Fine. Wait.
Who am I?
I don't know. Wait a minute. I don't know.
Okay, it's Jerry. How long has he been in the nursing home? Approximately 10 years. He was having seizures, and my mother couldn't handle him at home. Of course, it affected me greatly because he was always, fun-loving, singing, every occasion he would come out with a song, no matter where he was. I remember as a child, he used to walk us down the street, me and my brother, and he would stop and do Singing in the Rain. He would have us jumping and swinging around poles. He was, he was good. He was always into music, always loved singing, dancing.
His name is Henry Dreyer.
Uh-huh.
And I'm looking more or less for religious music for him.
Okay.
Because he enjoys music and he always quoting the Bible. So I'd rather have that for him.
We first see Henry inert, maybe depressed, unresponsive, and almost unalive.
Henry.
Yeah?
Henry.
Yes, sir.
I found your music. You want your music now?
What do you want me?
Let's try your music, okay? And then you tell me if it's too loud or not.
Then he is given an iPod containing, we know, his favorite music. And immediately he lights up. His face assumes expression, his eyes open wide. He starts to sing and to rock and to move his arms, and he's being animated by the music.
And he used to always sit on the unit with his head like this. He didn't really talk to much people. And then when I introduced the music to him, this is his reaction ever since.
The philosopher Kant once called music the quickening art, and Henry is being quickened, he's being brought to life.
Yeah?
I'm gonna take the music for 1 second, okay? Just to ask you a few questions. Okay? I'm gonna give it back to you.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
The effect of this doesn't stop, because when the headphones are taken off, Henry, normally mute and virtually unable to answer the simplest yes or no questions, is quite voluble.
Henry,
Yeah,
do you like the iPod? Do you like the music you're hearing?
yes.
Tell me about your music.
Well, I don't have one, I mean.
Do you like music?
Yeah, I'm crazy about music. You play beautiful music, beautiful sound,
Did
beautiful.
Did you play music when you were did you like music when you were young?
Yes, I went to big dances and things.
What was your favorite music when you were young?
Well, I guess, well, Cab Calloway was my number one band guy I liked.
What was your favorite Cab Calloway song?
Oh, I'll be home there for Christmas. Oh, you can count and plan on me with plenty of snow, mistletoe, present wrapped around your tree. Ow!
So in some sense, Henry is restored to himself. He has remembered who he is, and he's reacquired his identity for a while through the power of music.
What does music do to you?
Give me the feeling of love. No man. Figure right now the world need to come into music, singing. You got beautiful music here. Beautiful, oh, lovely. And I feel the band of love, the dream. The Lord came to me, made me holy. I'm a holy man. So he gave me this sound. I'll just say, I meet you. Let me see. Rosalie, won't you love me? Rosalie, won't you be sweet and kind?
With this beautiful new technology, you can have all the music which is significant for you in something as big as a matchbox or whatever. And I think this may be very, very important in helping to animate, organize, and bring a sense of identity back to people who are out of it. Otherwise, music will bring them back into it, into their own personhood, their own memories, their own autobiographies.
Music is another wonderful way to connect with our patients with dementia. And I want to encourage you to consider incorporating it into your care. Whether you use it while you're bathing the patient, or you pull out your iPhone to bring up the person's favorite music, it is a way to connect to happy memories this patient has. Music therapy in particular can be very effective with our patients and can be used to address emotional, spiritual, cognitive, social, and physical needs of patients. We know from research that music therapy can improve pain, communication, feelings of depression, and reduce disruptive behaviors. So some strategies to think about as you're working with your patient is to consider singing a song, even if you think your voice isn't great. Consider incorporating music into your work with the patient. Play music while providing care. Play a favorite TV or radio show. Some of them may have a particular favorite that they enjoy watching every day. They may be a closet Jeopardy watcher. Something like that that you can connect with them on. But as much as music can be really pleasurable, also make sure that we're not overstimulating the person. And so you're going to want to avoid noises that can cause a great deal of agitation. One of the things we noticed with the woman that we were working with who had a lot of sucking behavior is that she did enjoy music, but only certain kinds. And so one of the staff tried to play her something that had generally been a favorite for her. But we found her getting increasingly agitated as that was playing. And so we quickly shifted to a little Frank Sinatra, which smoothed her out, had her rocking a bit in her bed, and connecting with us in a way that she second before we had put on her favorite kind of music. Now we're going to talk about aromas or smells that evoke all sorts of memories for our patients. You may have noticed in some of the facilities you go into that they have started incorporating scents into their care. We have a facility that we care for patients in that has bread baking on the unit. Others may be baking cookies or cooking meals on the unit. There's a very good reason for this. Those kind of aromas that conjure up feelings of home also conjure up all sorts of memories and can be very stimulating for appetite as well. So they're kind of a twofer for our patients. So you want to think about how different scents can benefit the patients in your care. So if they're at home, they're going to be surrounded by the lovely aromas of favorite foods cooking. If they're in a facility, you may have to manufacture that a bit. So favorite scents in soaps and lotions can be very soothing to a patient, particularly during personal care. Fragrances of flowers or of soil for gardeners, for example, can also remind the person of many a pleasant hour in the garden. One of the things that I'm thinking about as I'm telling this story is of a woman named Loretta who was living in an assisted living setting. She had been a farmer's wife. She had been an excellent baker. And that was something that was a part of who she was and her identity as this housewife on a farm. And when she moved into the assisted living facility and gave up her kitchen, her family worried about what that was going to be like for her. This was a facility that did a lot of on-unit baking and very smartly asked her one day if she'd like to help them. The fragrance of the cookies brought her back to a very happy time, and being able to participate in that project gave her such a sense of well-being that what she said to me as she was talking about it was that the staff there had asked for her help. So not only did it take her back to a very happy place, it gave her a sense of some importance and value in her life. So some of the strategies to consider in working with aroma or smell is to use aromatherapy. There are so many soaps and candles out there that you can consider tucking into a sensory bag and pulling out. And some of those candles have terrific scents, like apple pie and sugar cookie. So even if you aren't in a place where those things are being made, you can pull out those aromas and get a story going with the person about the last time they made a pie or made cookies. Also, things to consider, again, are bringing flowers, soaps, baking bread, the scent of brewed coffee into the environment. What, again, is really important about that is not only do they take you to a place of very happy memories, they also can stimulate the appetite, which again, with our patients with dementia, can be very, very helpful when their sense of hunger and thirst diminishes as the dementia progresses. You may also want to combine scented lotions and massage techniques so that you're providing a nice sense of contact with the person while also giving them a nice aroma to take them, again, to a very nice place. We're now going to talk about the sensory bag. Some of you have seen those around the office. Some of you may have an old one from earlier trainings. Each of you at the end of this training is going to give your very own sensory bag, and so we want to talk about how to use that and what we're going to be putting into the bag for your use. You're going to have some information on how to use the bag in writing, but you're also going to have a number of different items that can help calm your patient, ease their pain, and help stimulate memories. So in that bag will be a stuffed animal or two, some picture books, some lotions, maybe some music, a few other items with different textures on them, all of which you'll use to incorporate what you've just learned in this module to connect with your patients and stimulate their memories.
As a social worker, one of my many tasks is to engage with patients who often have dementia and help their families to engage with them as well. We use a lot of sensory items, as you can see here, to facilitate that engagement. We encourage not just social workers and patients and families, but all of the disciplines involved in a patient's care to be able to use these items. We use education both with families and staff members to allow patients to get the most out of their experience when they're working with staff. These are some of the items that I use in my kit. We probably most often with patients start with some of the stuffed animals. It's always a way for the patient to feel something that's soft and that might have positive connotations, remind them of something that they can hold and squeeze, and sometimes makes them laugh. And so we often use this, and we'll often leave these with our patients as well so that they have something tangible to hold on to in between visits. Some of the other tools that we use with patients are oftentimes the lotion. Touch is really important, especially when a patient is in a nursing home or is at home and doesn't receive a lot of visitors. Oftentimes the only touch that they receive is from their caregivers, and that's positive, but oftentimes it's not gentle and soothing as we're hoping for. And so we use lotion to give hand massages, sometimes foot massages, depending on the patient's preference. But those are always gentle, very soft touches that are very positive for the patient. Depending on their interaction level, sometimes using things like the bubbles can be really fun. If we're at a nursing home, sometimes it'll engage the other patients around them to see that activity happening, and it gets people engaged and joining with one another. This is a creepy, squishy ball that is oftentimes fun for patients to play with. Sometimes if you want to throw it back and forth, it can be fun. It's just something also for them to touch that they probably haven't felt anything like this in a while. I use personally a lot of music in my practice with my dementia patients. Whether I'm singing myself, which is often atrocious, or I'm using a CD or something along the lines. So most patients have DVD players or CD players in the room that we can use. A tool that I use all the time is my iPhone that has Pandora radio on it, and I'll put that on all the time. And my favorite patient loves Twist and Shout radio. And so I have her hold the phone so she can feel the vibrations. And we all know how important music is to patients with dementia. And she'll start to come out of her shell at that point, which is exciting to watch. And she will words will come up for her. She'll smile for me. She'll start to bop her head and engage in ways that she wouldn't have without the music. So that's probably one of my favorite tools. Reading can be a great tool, especially if you know that a patient's very religious or something along those lines. Using daily gospels or reading from a Bible that's next to their bed can be really calming for them as well, just to hear those words and feel that presence in their lives. Families, when they're really involved with patients, sometimes have a hard time noticing the decline and become easily frustrated once a patient reaches a certain point in dementia where they can't speak to them or they can't hold conversations anymore, and they wonder, what's the point of me even visiting? What's the point of me trying to keep this relationship going if they don't even know who I am? And so I often use a lot of education at that point with families. We have books that we can give them, little pamphlets that explain the importance of touch and the importance of engaging with patients at that point in time. Even if they don't know who you are to your face, they might not remember your name, they will remember the sound of your voice. And just the fact that it's a comforting voice to them, that it's something familiar, that'll be a positive association for them, even if they don't know who you are. Touch and just being present to a patient and providing them with a time where they're with something familiar is really important. So to continue to visit as a family member and to maybe engage with these types of things in the sensory kit can provide a really positive association for families. You know, if a family has not heard their mom speak in a long time or has not heard seen their mom smile, to be able to play some of their favorite songs or show them some of their favorite photos and see a smile can be a really powerful experience for a family. It can be, the family also holds the key to a patient's past. A lot of times family members, you know, they know the life story, and so they can cue patients with stories that I might not be able to engage with. They can ask about times when, if it's a veteran, times from the war, or childhood times growing up, and different things that might cue a patient's memory, jog a patient's memory more so than the things that I could ask about. So I try to engage families with that, to either have them tell me the patient's history and we can engage over that, or being able to encourage the family to engage with the patient with those stories. And also just encouraging them to continue that bond. It can be hard when you feel like you're losing a patient. I often talk about the anticipatory grief piece of it and how your mom is not the same person you once knew, but she's still your mom, and this is a new person you're getting to know. Being able to engage with them in that piece and explain that, you know, she's different, but she's still herself. And so the importance of maintaining those relationships can be very meaningful to a family, especially as a patient's declining and potentially nearing their end of life. Engaging with patients depends on their state of mind and their comfort at the time. It's always important to first make sure that their basic needs are met, that they are comfortable, that they are changed, that that they're clean, and if they need to take any medications, that those initial needs are met, so that the time spent together can be as positive as possible. Depending on the patient's stage of dementia, average time to engage with the sensory kit is usually about 15 to 20 minutes only. In that, you want to make sure that the patient is engaged and comfortable, and they sometimes will hit a wall, and you'll kind of recognize that when they start to become detached from you, or start to sort of go back inside of themselves. And so, usually around 20 minutes, I start to assess with my patients if they'd like to continue, at which point we'll continue. If it seems like they are sort of done, they've gotten a little bit more tired, their sort of stature slouches, or so the time frame always depends on each patient and sort of their stage of dementia, as well as their comfort level with the tools that you're using. But on average, about 20 minutes per visit.
I want to close this module with the reminder that every interaction that you have with a patient is an opportunity to connect with that person. Use the items in your sensory bag and other resources available to you to use the 5 senses to help your patients unlock their memories.